Hi, everybody. I'm Tim from the Book Dragon, and I've got Elmon Dean Todd here with me to talk a bit about the first book in the Godshard Chronicles series, Cursed Night. Elmon will be joining us at the shop in Stockton for a live book signing on the 21st of June from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Thanks for joining me, Elmon.
Thank you for having me.
Alrighty, so I'll go ahead and get started with these questions. The first thing I'd like to ask is, can you tell us a bit about the Godshard Chronicles setting and what inspired it?
Godshard Chronicles revolves around obviously Godshard. Godshard is uh, basically this. It's like a gem. It's a crystallized essence of a dead god, really. And what happened was that 1,000 years ago there was a war amongst the gods. Most of them died. Whatever remains is in the God Shard. That's pieces of their essence, and they have loads of magic power. So all the races strive, kingdoms and such strive to collect these God Shards and for power, really. And that's a setting. I came up with it uh, over 15 years ago, but just kind of sat on it for a while until one day I decided. I was sitting with my I worked for the police department for 10 years. So I was working a night shift with my sergeant, who happened to be an artist, and we were discussing all the things we left to the side to pursue police work. So I stopped writing, and she stopped doing art. So we decided to get back to what we wanted to do, and and I came out with the novels. And as a result, she started doing her art, and then we started getting conventions booked up. So that was really how the whole thing started, and it kind of just snowballed from there.
That's really cool. Uh, yeah, and something I'm personally really excited about is the fact that the Godshard Chronicles is also a game currently under development. And can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes, we have a game and actually we have a comic series too, which is the stories of that is based off the game. And but I'll go on the game first. So the game is going to be for Steam and consoles, depending on funding. We have an upcoming Kickstarter, but so far definitely Steam. And think of action RPG, kind of like your older Legend of Zelda games, Secret of Mana, mixed with like that narrative flow of Lunar, Grandia, Final Fantasy series. So a combination of those three things, really. Action RPG, so we're gonna have two-player drop in, drop out couch co-op. So if you have like your basically, I always hated playing a role-playing game on a console, and you have your friends or your family or your significant other with you, and they're just watching, and they're the passive participant. Whereas those co-op games are a whole lot. It's a whole lot of fun, especially for an RPG, if you can get someone else involved with you. So that's why I wanted to do co-op. I wanted, you can just sit there and play with someone else and enjoy the story together. It's pixel art. We have composer Noriyuki Iwadare. He actually composed for Lunar, Grandia, Ace Attorney series for people who gamed after the 2000s. I'm more of a 80s 90s type of person. I grew up with the Atari, then Commodore 64, and then the Nintendo. So by the time Lunar and all that came out, I was already hitting my teens and such. But
Yeah.
that's I guess it's like over a 30-year-old game now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that came about. Sorry, am I rambling too much? Do you have any?
No,
I'm
that's
not
okay.
okay. Um, so with books are everyone's always going to read and such, but a lot of people these days either game or stream in addition to reading. So and I always wanted to do a video game, and I had the setting, I had the world building and already set up. So I got a hold of a team and we started, and now we got loads of good people on board. And yeah, development's going smoothly but slowly. So it'll probably be about maybe 3 years, I'm guessing, for the completed product. But we'll have the comic released by next year with our we have a publisher in the USA, and then I'm meeting one in Japan. So, and that's going to be a whole different I guess situation with same storyline as the game, but more condensed.
Mhm.
But anyway, I'll leave it to you. I didn't even give you time to talk.
Yeah, no problem. And so we've also got the sequel to Curse Knight, Blood Knight at the Book Dragon. And without giving away too many spoilers for Curse Knight, would you like to tell us a little bit about the sequel?
Okay, the sequel covers more. Yeah, I'm trying not to spoil it. That's really difficult. The first one has where the protagonist has no magic. He's in a world where all the humans and elves can use magic. He ends up getting something that helps him level the playing field, if not a bit more. The second book has him with this, with the loads of power, and he's learning to cope with it. So, and then now I'm writing the third one, which I can't give any more than that. Otherwise, it's too much of a spoiler. But it's a bit more of his growth. Also, in your background, the blonde girl, she was in the first one. She was a bit more kind of like a sidekick in the first one. If not, she wasn't a very strong character. The sequel has her shining as far as her strengths and her growing as a character. So I like her a lot more in that one. And the third one, I'm really I have loads of plans for her, both of them really. So the character development's really going to take off for them too in the third one. But if it already has, they've already grown quite a bit in the second one. The girl Althea, more for the better uh, than actually the Kairos, which is the main protagonist.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool to hear. And as well as Curse Knight and Blood Knight, we've also got another book in the God Shard setting, which is Dark Pariah, Blight of Logres. Could you tell us a bit about Dark Pariah and how it fits in with the rest of the canon?
Dark Pariah is more of a prequel. It revolves around, so Kairos, the main protagonist, he can't use magic. His race is the Einar, which is a warrior race. They were actually cursed by one of the gods when the gods were still alive, and they escaped to this small island 1,000 years ago, and they've been pretty much warring with each other. Completely forgot about most of the history of where they came from, and that magic exists and all that. And it revolves around Kairos's family, and one guy who's not related to him is called Mavos. He makes a brief appearance in Curse Knight, and then he's just no longer in the book. That said, he is the main character of Dark Pariah, and it's kind of like an origin story for Curse Knight, really. And if you read it, it does flow right into it does loads of things in it are in Blood Knight as well. So if someone reads that for chronologically, that would be the book to go to first. However, if you pass it, you're not missing. I mean, you are missing a little bit, but you can make do without it.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned earlier a bit about another project you've got in the works with the comic or the manga.
Yes,
And are you able to say anything about that?
yes, I can. The comic is I'm the writer for the comic series, and the artist is going to be Hiroshi Kanatani. He's quite known for his kaiju art. So
Mhm.
he's done what he does. he also does tokusatsu, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry if I butcher that for any fans of kaiju. I really, oddly enough, I don't read kaiju, which is probably good. We're not really fans of each other's genres and such, but we work great together. I love working with him.
Yeah.
He's done some Ultraman books. He's done some. I
Hmm.
mean, he's worked for loads of those publishers in Japan, like the ones that do Shonen Jump and all that.
Hmm.
What was that? Kodansha. There's Kodansha, Shueisha. Those are the ones that publish stuff that you probably hear about: Dragon Ball, Naruto, One Piece, and all that.
Hmm.
So he's worked for those companies already. And what's another bit he's done? He's done yeah, uh, Godzilla. Yeah,
Hmm.
I already said Ultraman. I'm sorry, I'm really bad with kaiju. Any kaiju fans probably screaming at me now. It's like you're around this guy all the time. Well, what they don't know, Hanatani-san he actually approached the publisher back in the 80s for a fantasy, for a manga based on in a fantasy setting, and they
Hmm.
turned him down. And they told him that fantasy is not really popular right now. Of course, that this was right before Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy and all this was released and blew up. And of course, I suppose that publisher was wrong, but he was actually quite excited to do this piece because Godshard Chronicles, because it's a fantasy setting, and he originally wanted to do fantasy, so now he's doing it, and it's I think it's turning out pretty great. We already got a publisher in America. It's Antarctic Press. They're going to be doing uh, the first at least the first 5 issues. We got the contract, and I will go to Japan. I mentioned this earlier. I'm going to Japan this winter, possibly early as autumn, to meet with the Japanese publisher over there, and we're going to get it. We already have it in Japanese and English, so we'll have it distributed in both countries. UK is next, but I think I'll probably need the whole series in either all 10 of the issues to have it ready for the UK.
Yeah.
So the difference is they're going to be the same, but in America, the American comic format's 24 pages on average each issue,
Hmm.
and a story arc will probably be like 10 issues, five to 10 issues. A manga is about 150 pages, give or take. That would actually equal 5 issues, and then you do a whole story arc. For our story arc, that's going to be two mangas. So that's the difference. So we need 5 issues to equal one manga in Japan,
Yeah.
and that's basically the format, unless you're releasing it for Shonen Jump's little weekly release or whatever they do over there. And once again, I apologize about getting it wrong, but
Yeah.
comics really aren't. I rarely grew up reading comics. I mean, that was something my friends were into, so it feels a bit odd writing for it. I had to teach myself. I had to do a lot of research for this, and
Yeah.
had to kind of take from writing a novel and teach myself how to do the comic format. It wasn't that bad, but I enjoy doing it more than the novels. It's really hard to write. Going back to writing the sequel to Blood Knight now that I've been working on the comics lately.
Hmm. Yeah. And you've also got another book with us from a completely different series called Magical Constabulary. Can you tell us a bit about that?
So, Magical Constabulary, that's based on Manx folklore. It takes place in Isle of Man, which is for those, I guess, most people outside the UK are quite unfamiliar with it unless you're really in a TT. It's a small island in the middle of the Irish Sea. It's between equidistance from England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, and um, I'll be living there soon, shortly. I'm actually, after I come by next week, I'll be getting my flat over there. So it'll
Uh-huh.
be yeah, we're doing a video game company. We're doing it based in Isle of Man. So, but I was a sheriff deputy. Um, or deputy sheriff, however, which one of those come from? I forget. I've been out of it for about 2 years now. So, but when I was I believe it was deputy sheriff. So deputy sheriff, I was working as a school resource officer during the last part of my law enforcement career at
Okay.
a elementary or primary school, and basically in the state of Florida, the governor signed, because of all the school shootings and all that, they signed a law. Basically, you need a armed security or law enforcement officer in every public school, and I believe now even private schools are starting to take this. But so that was my job. protect the children. I wasn't in charge of discipline. I wasn't. That was just my main job, was to protect the school, protect the children. That left a lot of downtime. I mean, loads of downtime, besides directing traffic in the morning and afternoon when school let out.
Yeah.
And quite a few of the teachers started asking me, "Hey, do you want to read any books to our class? The children would love it." And I said, "Sure." And I started reading. I went to one class. It was a second grade class. I read the book the teacher gave me, and I noticed some of the other most of the kids were not paying attention to me. They were bored of the story. And I told the teacher, I said, "Do you mind if I come back and write my own chapter and come back and read it to the class? I'll write my own story." And she goes, "Yeah, sure." And about a week later, I came back with chapter 1 and 2. I used loads of toilet humor, and of course, because children love that stuff, and they were all paying attention this time, and they were all laughing. So, and I did it in Isle of Man because I wanted to educate them a little bit, because and for some reason, at least in my experience, growing up in the American educational system, history and geography, most of it revolves around America, and
Yeah.
they get so little of the rest of the world. So not there wasn't a whole lot of knowledge. So I use this as an excuse. As okay, this is Isle of Man. I did a little educational thing at the beginning, and then I read the story to them with loads of toilet humor, with Manx folklore and the fairy tales and all that mixed in. But it's magical constabulary. It's about a police constable, who are called the magical constabulary, composed of children who are police constables. And the reason why it's children, they're children because the mythical creatures that they're supposed to keep in, the bad ones that get out of order, they're supposed to arrest them and take them to justice, and only children can see them. Adults cannot see them. And that was the whole premise. And I ended up they ended up wanting loads of the classes. Other teachers got wind of it. They wanted me to read the story. Kind of took off with the school, and by the end of the school year, I had the whole novel written, because I was doing a chapter a week on average. And and some of the students were giving me drawings based on the characters, or based on the setting itself. And it was really flattering. I mean, part of me really kind of wish I kept doing that, because I mean that is a rewarding part of the job, just going there every day and just doing something you love. And I mean, and you're getting loads of the kids involved with it. And I did a contest with one of the classrooms. The winner would get their name in the books as police constables. And yeah, I actually had 2 of the students in there, with permission from them and their parents, of course. But it was I quite miss it. But at the same time, I have to move forward on. I didn't have time to be deputy sheriff, author, video game developer, and get the comics out, plus all these other things I'm having on the side. So that was the main reason I moved on from that. But that was how Magical Constabulary came about. I haven't written a sequel to it. I did leave it open just in case. Just too busy to mess with that now.
Yeah, that sounds really fun. Anyway, yeah, thank you, Elman. That's all my questions for now. But for those listening, if you haven't already, check out our tour page for Elmon Dean Todd on our website. for more questions and for our reviewers' thoughts on Cursed Night. And once again, Elman will be joining us at our shop at 6 West Row in Stockton-on-Tees on Wednesday, the 21st of June from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. I'm looking forward to it.